right. Now let me just grab the YouTube link. Pop the chat over here. Okay. Let me just post this here. Alrighty. I think we're live. I think we're here. We're on the air. The air is on.
My air conditioner is actually not working.
I've been messing around with the neural amp modeler. Have you seen this?
No, I have not.
It's
something I should see.
It's pretty cool. I mean, like, it's a free plugin. It basically is just an amp modeler, but you can use custom made
something.
You can use custom made impulse responses as well as these like special like neural amp modeler files that apparently record a ton of information of like how the amp. It's like basically an advanced impulse response is the way that I would look at it. But it sounds pretty good. Like, it's like nice for like that. Like, it's kind of what's the word? Organic, you know? You know, because like normally sounds like that, and then you get the or like lo-fi.
That is pretty cool. All right, guys. Just a little bit of housekeeping to let you know what's going on. We are waiting for Colin to return. He is our guest Feefer today. If you guys are not aware of Colin or know who Colin is one of the OGs in our community. He is an extremely talented producer, an extremely talented mix and masterer. So if you have mix down and mastering questions, tonight is the night to ask them. I look up to Colin's representation of like what a good mix should sound like. He's spent an extensive amount of money making his studio into the perfect like you'll see when he turns on his camera, he's got like mattresses and mattresses nailed to his walls. It's crazy.
Yeah, Colin's definitely an inspiration to us all when it comes to his ability to take this seriously in the real world. As you can see, yeah. I need some serious treatment on my walls. That's why a lot of the times I do a lot of workhorse related stuff with my headphones, but obviously I tested on everything. So, and by it I mean my bangers.
And then furthermore, housekeeping. My hearing imbalance has cleared itself out. I'm back to hearing normal again.
Nice.
However, there's a hair stuck in the driver of my left headphone now, and it's kind of slightly buzzing and rattling with like a lot of low end impact. So that's kind of uncool. And I don't want to take it apart and fix it. I was telling a homie who shall not be named earlier that like my left ear is buzzing and I'm unhappy about it. And I took off the ear cup and I looked and saw that it was a hair in there, a few hairs in there actually. So I gotta handle that.
That's how it goes. I had that issue with my Sundaras the other week. I thought they were broken. I was so upset, and then I like looked at them and I was like, "Oh, there's just a fucking hair in there." I pulled the hair out and it sounded great. I was like, "Oh,
yeah, I got a bunch of hairs in mine."
Well, hell yeah. Well, yeah, thank you guys for coming through. Another Friday, another Feef. It's a little bit of a short one this week. That's why I
feel like Hoki's trolling me here. He says my sound treatment in my room is my mattress and comforter in my open closet with clothes hanging behind my desk. Huh.
I think that's why his songs sound so good. It's the clothes behind the desk.
They sound fantastic in my identical listening environment.
Yeah, it's the clothes for sure. No, that's dope. I think that's important. I think like the reality is like whatever you can do to fill your room is good. I'm very lucky I have a carpet, so my whole entire room has carpet, which is great. Very thankful for that. But you know what I mean? Like things like that, like anything helps. Anything to help deaden the higher frequencies, especially. But you know, lows are just almost impossible to deal with unless you have a bass trap. The reality is that's like kind of just how it is. But
So I have a resentment with the Uns Festival Lunar Guava. It used to literally be in my town. Like it was at the Turlock Reservoir, and I'm in Turlock. If that gives you kind of any indication of how close it is, right? And it's no longer there. And it was once upon a time an affordable festival to go to. And I'm not feeling like, because like I could like day trip it, you know? Yeah.
true. Sorry, I was reading Hoki's comment
Yeah,
about.
you don't have to have bass traps if you don't have a sub.
I just thought that was funny. It was a very
Or you
clever.
just do it outside with an infinite baffle.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Actually, outdoors is the best place, quite frankly. Um, but anyway, yeah,
But it is officially like 90 plus degrees in my town. So what is it? It's not that hot today, but it's going to be 95 tomorrow. Oh no, it's 94 right now.
that's hot. That's
Yeah, and
that's
my
toasty.
my air conditioner is not working, so I
Oh
have my window
fuck.
open, and my fans on.
Oh god, that is so not good. Well, I hope
Uh,
that you stay cool. Drink some water.
I'm
Stay
over here
hydrated.
sweating.
Well, maybe I should show other cool, fun things that I've been fucking around with. I'm still like huge fan of spectral stuff. I've been playing with this little spectral toy. It's like a free spectral gate, but it's got this weird little release function that I didn't see on some of the other spectral gates I've used. Um, but it's quite.
What is the rest? What does the rest mean?
So basically, this is a spectral gate that separates the transients from everything else, and the transients are what you are essentially like gauging all of the spectral like processing or gating off of. So like you can have manual adjustment over those two things is what you have. So the transients are what you're hearing now. That's like that, and then of course you can bring in kind of like the dry signal is the rest, right? So that way you can have like both. Um, right. Let me even make this like a little bit louder. Kind of quiet, you know. Kind yeah, I
You
think it
know,
sounds great.
it doesn't sound so like changing on the individual notes, but when you play the chords, like you can tell that there's something going on with the timbre, and that's cool.
It's like a
It allows you
digital
to like still,
lo-fi. That's the way
it
I
allows you to
think of it.
still solo, but also keep the chords cool.
Hell yeah. But yeah. So I've just
Yeah,
been exploring these like very soft textural adjustments to sound. Huge fan of like spectral processing, any kind of. Ooh.
that sounds awful in a good way.
It just sounds so
It's like
old. It sounds so broken.
it's just all the room noise and none of the actual instrument.
It just like sounds like it's coming out of some broken vinyl record over in the other room or something. But no, yeah. I like the vibe that you can achieve with spectral gating, and this is just a fun one that I think was just worth mentioning. I don't know if anyone else has any fun things they've found recently as far as techniques or tools or
Yeah,
I
let's
don't
hear
know,
from chat.
Duncan.
What
Yeah, I don't know
what
why.
what new tools what new tools are you guys fucking with right now that we should investigate?
Yeah, what's like the best plugin on in the world?
Yeah, and inexpensive and free preferred, please.
Yeah. But if it's expensive and not free, that's also okay. We understand.
Yeah.
You're rich.
Whoa, whoa! Don't assume my financial capabilities.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. You're not rich. You're a sea surfer. I'm just playing. I'm playing. All right, Ableton stock effects are always goated, to be honest. Yeah, I mean they are quite good. I honestly, I like them. I think they're fun. I don't use them often. I use them probably like 20% of the time, which I guess is like good. It's like a pretty decent amount of time. I think my favorite Ableton stock plugin is the delay and echo as well as the delay. Both of those are really
not hybrid reverb.
Well, hybrid reverb is another great one, but I still think that as far as like in the way that I use it, the hybrid reverb in the way that I use it, I kind of only use it for a couple of things, but I feel like the delays are a little bit more dynamic in my use case, and I almost always go for them. Like I'd rather, like if I need a normal delay, I would almost always rather grab the Ableton delay than any other delay. And there's a lot of really good delays that I have.
We've got some Voxengo stuff. That's good. Voxengo's good. Roar 12. Roar is good.
Roar, oh yeah. Oh, the Voxengo PHA 797. I haven't heard of that. Oh, 979. What is that?
I haven't heard of that one either.
Let's take a little look-see here. Voxengo 979.
Yo,
interesting.
He's returned.
Oh, he's back. It's a phase alignment plugin. Wow.
Are you wearing clothes yet?
Oh yeah.
Are submissions closed? That's a good question. Are submissions closed? Yes, they are. They're supposed to be.
They are supposed to be. If they're not, then there has been a big mistake.
They are now. Okay.
How many we got?
6. It's gonna be a fast one.
Nice. We can go in depth.
Yes.
Hey, Colin, what kind of speakers do you have?
Genel X.
Mm.
The 8330 with the subwoofer.
And what kind of sound treatment do you have?
Oh, too much. Too fucking much.
Too much.
I'll scale it down later, but it works because I have the subwoofer. You should not, fun tip, you should not get a subwoofer for your room unless you have a shit ton of room treatment because it will confuse you more than it helps you.
Word. And I always take Colin's word as like this guy is essentially the Bible. He's essentially the Bible.
I got obsessed.
All right? But like in human form, all right? But for music, okay? And mainly like the room treatment, dude. I don't know how you were able to. So you built all of those, right? Like
I got that stimulus check, and I got a bunch of rock wool and PVC pipes, and built a bunch of little cages and shit. That's the cheapest way you can go. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you bought like this is probably $1,200 worth of room treatment, but if you went through a professional company that does it for like movie theaters or something, it would probably be well over $5,000. Because they up price it, they up market.
Right.
But, yeah, do it yourself always.
Well, word.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Are we ready to get cracking, boys?
I think we are ready to get cracking. First off, we got Artemis. I like the way you kiss me. Philo Flip. Let's get it.
I can tell you listen, I can tell it is. I'm trying to be romantic, I hit it from the back just so you don't get attached. I like the way you kiss it, I can tell you listen, I can tell it is. I'm trying to be romantic, I hit it from the back just so you don't get attached. I like the way you kiss it, I can tell you listen, I can tell it is. I'm trying to be romantic, I hit it from the back just so you don't get attached. can see it. Can you make it loud? Cause I'm so proud. Baby, I'm so proud of you.
Nice. That was pretty good. That was I feel like the idea isn't bad, but the execution maybe was not quite, I think, kind to the project as a whole, if that makes sense. I guess I'll start off since I've kind of already begun. I feel like the arrangement isn't too stagnant, but my problem with it is that I guess stagnant isn't the right word. Maybe it is the right word. Because I guess it is just always everything, which I guess is a level of stagnation. So maybe I'm gonna take back what I said. It is a level. It is stagnant.
Respace.
It's like the same.
Goes.
It's like the same thing, right? Like there's no negative space, right? Like it's just this constant. Everything all the time, which I've had issues with in the past. So like, I get it. I think a lot of the times things like sidechain can help with that. Maybe cutting out frequencies, especially when it comes to the separation of the instruments in your song. So for example, cutting out low frequencies in more instruments. I feel like there's like low mid build up in your track, is one place where I feel like there's a lot of there's just a lot of information, all the time, which does make it feel stagnant. So yeah, my recommendation to you is to try and get this section to feel more dynamic, which can be achieved through things like sidechain and the things I was discussing earlier. You can also EQ, dynamically EQ, all that kind of stuff. But another thing that I think you should experiment with is changing up some of the flow from a perspective of either some of the notes that you're hitting or maybe even the timbre of your instruments. It kind of feels like you copy pasted this section as far as the arrangement goes. And then the vocals were kind of just thrown on top. And because of that, it just feels like this very disjointed thing. It doesn't make sense to me. All right. I'm trying to be too harsh, but I'm letting you know realistically what it felt like. So my recommendation is focus really hard on the arrangement. Take the lyrics out for now. Focus more on the arrangement and try and get the arrangement to flow really nicely. Make sure you get a really nice, dynamic, and exciting song without the vocals, right? And maybe just keep in mind that you're going to be putting the vocals in later, but just be conscious of the fact that the song has to sound good on its own before you add the vocals. And then when you add the vocals, you might even question, maybe I don't need to make this a remix of like a song. I could maybe either pay somebody to sing on it or try and sing myself or find someone who might want to sing on this track, you know? I feel like in the context of a song like this, I always tell people, like, I get it. The song, the original song is cool. It's fun. It's catchy. That's awesome. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if it gets you to start writing music, then you should keep doing it. But if you really want to take your tracks to like a release ready sort of vibe, I would recommend not being so attached to remixing things in this way, only because you're missing out on the opportunity to, I think, express yourself more. Especially when you're starting off or if you're new as an artist. I don't know how long you've been producing, but you know, when I started off, I definitely did not do a lot of remixing, and I'm thankful for it because it helped me develop my own sound and really just be focused on like figuring out what I wanted to do. So that's why whenever I hear people remix stuff like this, I let them know, hey, the vocals, they did kind of work, but I honestly don't know if they need to be these vocals. They could probably be any vocals, and it might even sound better with like vocals that you pick out and arrange and, you know, decide yourself. this is like 4 hours in word. I mean, like, so the reality is like, dude, you have a good starting idea here. I think you should take the vocals out because they can be distracting from the arrangement, in my opinion, and just focus on developing the arrangement more. So in the context of this song, I would say focus on timbrally changing the bass, right? Maybe changing it so the bass doesn't happen all the time, right? Maybe making moments where the bass is not there could be good too. Things like that, right? Yeah, exactly. Colin's spitting facts, fills, things like that. So that's my answer. Is it too stagnant? Unfortunately, yes, but I don't think it's unsalvageable. It just requires some focusing on like a specific aspect of the mix at a time. So like I would take the vocals away, focus on the arrangement, develop it more. I do think that the syncopation aspect was fine. I didn't really notice any issues with that. I do think the groove was okay, but again, the groove was fine when it was happening, but it was stagnant. Like I could feel like there wasn't enough like changing of the groove from the perspective of like Colin was saying, even adding fills, like adding spaces where maybe the groove stops for a minute and we have like a moment where something can maybe be expressed a little bit more, like another sound can exist there, right? So I think that can be really beneficial to this kind of a song as well, because the drums do feel a little bit monotonous over time. But yeah, the next thing here, does the drum group? Yeah, so I think that it's fine, but you should expand upon it. That's basically all I'm saying. Should I structure the beat or the vocals? Again, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it again. The vocals just don't need to be those vocals. So that's my opinion there, and that's all I have to say on that. That's basically it. It's a really cool idea. Yeah, take it away. Those are my thoughts.
Word. I'm gonna play good cop, bad cop with Brad here. I think the vocals are fine, but everything does get monotonous, like especially with the respace that never pulls out. You need to pull that out or drop it or something every now and then just to give that break a full on energy. Pull it out, do a drum fill, do something. You can even just have no respace and no drums for 4 bars and have just the vocal and other layers of melody playing over it as like a sweep comes up and then pulls them into like, oh, it's gonna like a redrop. Because if it just goes on the same way for like a minute or even like 40 seconds, the listeners kind of tune out nowadays. You got to play with that goldfish attention span. I mean, you don't have to, but it helps. I think the vocals could be mixed better to be more upfront, but it sounds like you're also kind of using it as an instrument, just kind of as something that kind of floats there. I still think it could have more presence. So like boosting the 3 to 5K range, making it a little bit more there, or cutting that area out of other elements might help it pop out more. The melody, what is it? The arps. The arps don't interfere. They're actually playing along nicely, but they're all in the same space. The arps to me are asking to be sent to like a return or some type of delay channel where they can like appear like they're coming on the sides and like sparkling around the singer and around the respace. And it's more about their positioning in the mix. Everything seems kind of like it's in the middle. And yeah, the ARP is panning, but I feel like it could be a delay that like ping pongs and spreads out, and you use like high width while you narrow other things like the vocal could be more right in the middle. Some of the respace, like the sub or I guess it's a respace, so you can't really put that right in the middle. But yeah, just be more intentional with the soundstage and the stereo imaging, because that helps the brain wrap itself around a mix a lot easier when things are put in the right spots, and then like your ear and your nervous system can pick things out and go, oh, it's like an easy listen. You don't have to try to struggle to hear things. So arrangement stagnant. Yeah, you just need fills and things to pull out. It's a good full mix, and you have like just the right amount of elements. So that's cool. Not too much going on. That's my issue. Drum groove. Yeah, was there a drum groove? Or was it just a kick? Let me see real quick.
There was a drum groove, but it was kind of like...
Yeah, it works. It's a good...
it's not bad.
Bass. No, yeah, I just feel like you could add... You got the hi-hats. Like, you just... You just need the fills. You need all the drums to just stop at some point, or the respace to just stop and have just like a drum fill or just a pull out and a something that like a tension or a tension and release real quick, because it just kind of does this the whole time. But it's up to you as the producer. Should you restructure the beat or the vocals? You just need to place them in the right spots. And yeah, restructuring the beat, like muting the drums sometimes, or low passing them, or band passing everything to make it feel like the whole track is moving and like building tension, and then it's gonna like release again, kind of like a mini build up and a mini drop. That's all drum fills really are. Yeah, just break up the monotony. But yeah, it's a solid track. That's all I have to say.
It's a really
Hi.
good way to. Sorry, it's a really good way to look at it. Mini drop, mini build kind of vibes.
Yeah, like just it's the micro tension building, yeah, and then micro releases, yeah, and then you have the macro build, macro drop.
Hello, person. I think these guys covered a lot of your questions pretty well. Is the arrangement too stagnant? I wouldn't say it's stagnant, but it does get repetitive. I agree. Fills and pullouts could fix that. Could help quite a bit. Does the ARP interfere with the vocals? No, because they're sitting in different frequency spaces. But I'm not a fan of the vocals at all. I'm more in the Magduit camp of like either get your own vocal that, and like I don't know who originally sings this track, but I hear like remixes of it all the time. Like my rule of thumb is if you're gonna do a remix of like just vocals, either get ahead of the curve like pre-release or wait like 10 years after the release. Um, so yeah, I don't know what the source material is on this track. Does the drum groove work well considering the bass track's vocals were not on beat to begin with? Should I restructure the beat or the vocals? If you feel like it's off, then it's off. If you feel like it's on, then it's on. That's an artistic choice that you need to make. But if you're concerned about like your original vocal not being in time, maybe use a vocal that is in time. Just a thought. Just something to consider. But these two guys killed it with the Feef. You should definitely take their suggestions and run with that. So officially, I'm recusing myself from Feefing this track just because I'm not a fan of these remixes.
And I do agree with with what Brad and Dino said with like which vocals you choose and how like recent the song is, and even finding your own source material. If you're starting out, it's fine to just use other stuff that's already there to practice with. But if you want to make serious releases, it is best to create your own magic and not base it off somebody else's.
Yeah.
Unless you're like working with them actively. But yeah.
Eventually, yeah, like if at some point you reach out to them and like spark a deal and they end up like wanting to work with you on a remix, then hell yeah, dude. But like if it's not that, then be warned that amongst producers, fellow producers that are taking this pretty seriously, it will be frowned upon, right? It's not really like the coolest thing because you're essentially like stealing their vocals to like make your own thing, which again, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fun. It's cool. Have fun and make music. Okay, do it. But what I'm trying to say is go as far as you can before you do that. And then when you do actually do that, right, then maybe like try and take the part that got you inspired, so like the vocal in this case, and just like take that out of the equation after you've created the art piece that you've created, and try and like replace it with something else that you can also create yourself, right? Maybe use it as like a placeholder to get you inspired to make the song, but then like, use something else. Anyway, sorry, I'm not trying to rant on that either. It's just, I feel like we all feel very similarly on that. So yeah. But thank you very much for your song. That's a cool remix. You should, I think you should definitely keep working on this, especially the arrangement. I want to hear more arrangement ideas. But yeah, very cool. Very nice. Oh boy. Well, let me get these questions up because we need to know what he wants to know from us.
So if you guys are playing bingo, okay, I want you to pay attention. There's already a few things that we've been able to bingofy. Okay, if you guys have been playing the bingo, there was a few things there that were already discussed.
Yeah,
if you're playing the bingo,
I have been not playing the bingo, but
I can
it's
think
hard
of
for me to play the bingo. Got a lot going
I can
on
think
today.
of two that immediately were addressed.
Gotcha.
So
All
I
right.
literally have sweat dripping down my arm right now. It's gross.
It must be really fucking hot over there. 90 degrees with no AC is
No,
that's
it's 90. It's 94 right now.
Yeah, that's not fun. Well,
95. Sorry.
hopefully this wonderful track gets you more excited. I know I am looking forward to hearing it myself. Thank you once again, Hokie, for stopping by. Let us enjoy this little sonic journey.
You want to kick us off, Colin?
Flex, Colin.
What? Also, can we take a look at that sweater? Just real quick. Just
From Peru.
Peruvian.
Oh shit! Can you even hear me? It's Peruvian. No, I'm trying to get my sub pack hooked up, but the battery's dead. So I'm trying to check that sub, but I can't really. I will say the kick sounded a lot louder than the sub sustain. Hold on, I can get all these fucking windows. All right, I'll go first, I guess. The sub, dude, I honestly did not hear it or feel it. Like, it's there on the mini meters, but I don't know if it's like solid, if that makes sense. I don't know. That's what I was trying to get my sub pack out. Actually, here, you know what? I'll replay it when I get my sub pack working, and I'll let you know. Let's let somebody else do feedback real quick.
You go first, I know. Take us away.
Okay. Question 1, do the plucks feel like they should be more pronounced? I can tighten the filter movement, but I'm unsure if I feel a little confused between being plucks and sustains. I don't know what you mean by the plucks there, but there was something that was in like the mids, like mids, that I didn't like. And you killed it about halfway throughout the track. I don't know if you're talking about that, but that was just a personal taste thing. I didn't like how it fell across my ear. I didn't like it, how it, like the timbre of it in comparison to the rest of the track. So yeah, Are the highs tame enough, or is it overall timbre harsh on the ears? Um, again, that timbre that was in the mids, I was not a fan of it. Does the sub need some more harmonics or a boost? I'm worried it might not be hitting, but I also have ass sub monitoring abilities. I think the sub was fine here. I think it translated just well with the timbres that you're layering on top of it, like the stuff higher up the harmonic series that were following the same movements as the sub. You're always really good about getting your sub levels just right. I wouldn't concern myself with that if I were you. I would just continue on the path that you've been on for the past year or so with your sub levels, and you should be okay. Like you play out enough to know that like what you're doing with your sub should work just fine. And if you ever have a question about it, just let me know, and I will independently listen to it on a system that has a decent sub. Usually a good way to check that is with car audio. Um, if your car can play it, then fucking Hennessy's and baseball systems can play it, and function ones and voids. I feel like that's a good transfer over, like a good relative, just because cars have so much more low end than other things, or they're capable of hitting such a lower frequency than other things. That's a good way to check it. But yeah, I just had there was just a timbre in there that was in the mid frequencies that just didn't feel like it fit with the rest of the song. That's my only real gripe here. So yeah. But again, that's an artistic thing. That's just yeah. You ready, Colin?
Yeah, okay, I figured it out. There's just so much low mid bass, it kind of smears the sub bass. Like our ears can only hear like one octave, or at least a subwoofer can only put out like one octave consistently or at like high power. So if you want it more of like a mid bass energy, yeah, if you want to like pop off on live like big sound systems, then I think you should get rid of that second harmonic, or at least like tone down the low mids a little bit. Let me see your questions real quick. It's a really good song. I gotta preface it with that. It's good flow, good song. It's a good mix. There just seems to be like some overlap of the release of some of the basses and the like it's still pretty dialed in, but I still feel like you could carve out more space for each thing to be heard a bit more clearly. Plucks feel like they should be flux should be more pronounced. Kinda. It's a delicate balance because you don't want everything to be super transienty and in your face and like overly heard, because then it just sounds like too much. It's more about just like carve out the tails of other basses that are going on before the plucks come in, because it sounds like there's like a tail, or maybe the return bus of reverb is still like overlapping whenever those plucks come in or other basses come in, and they're not being heard as clearly as they could. And that's going to be even more apparent if it's over a really loud sound system. The noise and the lack of clarity will be more obvious. So yeah, I think you could just tighten it up a little bit, get the tails to dampen or return to silence a little bit quicker. Or just sidechain the return channel. But Ableton's return plug and delay compensation's fucked up, so I never trust that. I usually bounce the reverbs out and then just have them in their own bus and then sidechain it that way. Up to you though. The highs tamed enough. I think the highs were actually pretty good. Everything seemed pretty tame. What I did notice is the snare sounded quieter than the kick, and the snare was kind of buried in there, and I was having a hard time like where is it? It's there, but I think it could go up a little bit in level to match the kick. The kick is in a good spot. The subs are good, but like I said, the low mids are a little bit heavy. Like the low mids, like 100 to 200 hertz. Sub needs more harmonics or a boost. Just the root note, yeah, but not the harmonics. Definitely don't need more harmonics. It might not be hitting. Yeah, if you want it to hit, it's got to be just that root note. And you can't have harmonics just like if you really want it to hit, like less harmonics. Unless you're making music in D or C, then you need harmonics. But I think this is in this is in like F sharp, so you can rely completely on like the sub itself, just the root note. But But yeah, other than that, good flow, good arrangement, just a few things. Yeah, that's my feedback.
Well
Can I
then,
do it?
that was awesome. Yeah, no,
You are so fucking loud. What the fuck?
I moved my microphone. That could have been my bad.
Okay.
Do the Pucks feel like they should be more pronounced? Yeah, a little bit. I feel like I feel like both Dino and Colin brushed on this topic, but yeah, I feel like everything's like a little bit muddy, like just a skosh. Like I feel like there's like a little bit of the low mid buildup, like they were talking about, and I feel like there's like a little bit of a lack of clarity when it comes to like just making sure there's enough room between hits of like tails of bass hits and things like that. Like I don't know, it's so subtle because it's amazing. This track is awesome. Love the sound design. The flow is great. Everything about it is awesome. So I'm being very nitpicky here, as I'm sure you're aware. But yeah, I feel like it's missing like a little bit more clarity on like the separation of everything, right? So I can like distinguish between what's going on. And yeah, I feel like a lot of that is because of that like low mid feeling. At least that's where I've found like a lot of that lack of clarity feeling comes from, is like build up in the low mids. So yeah, I would definitely just check that. But I also feel like there's potentially a weird like hole in the upper mids too. I feel like there was like a weird cut that like there was room there. And it was like right before the like 3K ish, like somewhere in like the 5K or like I'm sorry, not 5K, 1K or 2K range. Somewhere in there is like I feel like where I felt there was some kind of like a hole. I don't know how to describe it. It's like you cut something out, or maybe it was just the way the mud was building up. It just made that area feel so small. But anyway, yeah. So they should be a little bit more pronounced. I feel like the filter movement was fine though. I feel like it's more about just how they react with everything else. So like, yeah, it's like this balancing act like Colin was talking about. I feel like they just need to be a little bit more obvious in the mix. I don't know how you want to achieve that to the listener. Maybe that's something as simple as like just adjusting its space in the stereo field, right? Like maybe just cutting room out forward a little bit on other instruments, things like that. Yeah, I'm sure you know how to make space for it. But anyway, does the sub need more harmonics or a boost? Oh, here, are the highs tamed enough, or is the overall timbre harsh in the ears? The timbre is fine. It's weird. It feels weird. There's like a lot of weird stuff going on. Like it feels muddy, but then like the mud isn't obviously coming from the low mids at first. It feels like it's coming from like a hole in the upper mids, but then I had noticed, yeah, like the low mids are obviously like a little bit, at least in my opinion, full. And I can't feel that. I'm using headphones as well, so I don't have a sub. But like I can see that there's no defined fundamental on the sub, which can be a little bit dangerous, So yeah, I think it needs less harmonics. I think it needs more of like a defined sub, and just like, yeah, just like everything else that these guys have been saying too. You already know, like, just needs a little bit more defining on the sub, and that's probably it. I feel like it's hard to say considering I'm using headphones, but that's my opinion considering what mini meters is looking like. Because a lot of the times when I'm using headphones, that's what I'm basing my decisions off of. And yeah, like there's definitely like some moments or often there are moments where there's build up there. But anyway, yeah, super freaking cool song though, dude. Like this is awesome. I really like that little like kind of intro where you built up this moment of tension before you built up the next moment of tension into the drop. I've noticed like a lot of Resonant Language does that. There's a bunch of really cool people that do that, and I'm glad you're one of the cool people that also does that. So it was exciting. It was fun. So thank you. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's it for Hoki's track. Thank you, Hoki. That was sick. Super cool. I feel like Hoki is always just killing it with the sound design. Like, I don't know how you make those sounds, dude, but they're just silly.
I do. He's walked me through the process a few times. I just didn't internalize it.
Oh damn. Yeah. It's a vibe.
Like,
super
his gates
fun.
are wide open.
Wow. Well, Hoki, sometime you'll have to show me. It's so cool. Thank you for that submission. That was fun. All right, next up we got the man, the myth, the legend, Lunar Guava with the reduce. I'm sorry, I'm trying to like really get it. Me to dust. All right, here we go. I noticed I went over the 3 minutes, so I guess today is going to be.
Oh, that was sick though.
That was cool.
All right. Well, I'm glad that I'm first in the rotation.
Yep.
And I feel like this track is right up my alley. You'll notice the third section is thicker. How can I make the first and second part thicker without distracting from the impact of the third? Because I like the evolution of it. You can up the upper harmonics and reduce the bass so that it's more of a heard and less of a felt type situation. And then when your full bass comes in, and when I say like reduce it, you reduce it by like 3 decibels, but you make up for it by adding higher harmonics. so that it's still heard, but then like it's a greater impact is felt. Um, very dope. I plan on making some things a little bit wider, but does anything stand out in the mix that needs fixing? I would want the flutes to come more forward, maybe push them higher in like the high frequencies, like 5K plus. Just add more air and sparkle to them. Bring them up and forward more. And that would add a lot, I think. And then I like the minimal hypnosis for this one because it's meant to be depressing, but there are some elements I should layer. But are the elements I should layer in or ways I can make transition smoother? Yes, there's one element that you could definitely layer in. A descending percussion line is always sick. In something like this, it gives a more entrancing feel and it allows for a more hypnotic vibe. But if you have like, you can do like water droplets, you can do log drums, you could do stick breaks, but the idea is like either in a triplet or in groups of 3, just depending on what the rhythm of this track allows for, descending in pitch. So kind of thing. Like I guess you didn't hear me clicking my tongue there. But yeah, log drums, bro. Log drums. Or just like real world percussion. That is like adds to it, right? Something that you can anchor to that is a consistent and that you can high pass and low pass in and out like independently. Wood blocks and rim shots. Yeah, Collins on the money with that. And I just felt like this track was lacking like an organic and rhythmic element in the form of percussion altogether. You could also do like a really transient heavy flute. You could add transient like impacts and plosives, like flute plosives to the flute element itself. I don't know what you're using for your flute, but like really good multi-sampled like flute playback, like Contact will have, especially in their woodwind stuff, will have all sorts of like plosive, like depending on how hard you bang down the key or the velocity that you program in, it'll have like plosives. So yeah. And then yes, you could do like pitch shifts and that kind of stuff. Just like rhythmic stuff that kind of puts you in a loop that you can consistently bring in and out. That is always going to be there, always helps for like the hypnotic effect. And then you can play around with the other things because that is always cool too. Yeah. All right. Yeah, like a flute trill. Like, yeah, Colin's spitting fire. Colin's spitting so much fire, in fact, that
I
it's
love
Magnus'
flutes,
turn.
dude. Play with flutes. Pan pipes. Get the pan pipes
Yeah,
out.
pan flutes. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I used to have one of them. I don't know what happened to it. I used to have all sorts of flutes, like a 2-piece recorder and like a Peruvian pan flute and like rain sticks, and I still have some tombacks, which are hand drums, but
You can't forget
a
about
toddler.
You can't forget about the jokester flute, the slide whistle. All right, you can't forget about
Oh
that.
yeah. Can't call it by its actual non-PC name.
I don't even know what that is, but I'm glad that I don't, I
What?
guess.
The Jew harp?
That's not a slide whistle.
Oh,
A Jew's
bad.
harp is is
it's the thing you stick in your
it's
cheek,
the same
right?
as the jaw harp. Yeah. The jaw harp is the politically correct term, I guess. But yeah, it's called a Jew's harp. That's what it's called. I mean, that's literally what it is, though.
Oy vey.
Anyway, who's next? Is it me? Am I next? Am I the next person? I guess so. I think that Dino made a good suggestion when it comes to this. The reality is, like, the way your dynamics are structured now, you have a ton of low end, and the low end stays the same throughout all of the drops. If you minimize some of that, the low end of your song carries tons of energy and weight, especially your sub. So if you lower your sub even by like a decibel in like an entire section before the section that you're resolving at here, that alone would probably be more than enough to establish that feeling. You would, of course, have to still be aware that, the balance around all of that might change. So during that section, you may have to also dynamically adjust other instruments in your mix. But I'm just letting you know that that's one way to adjust it. You can also go from the perspective of like the master level, right? You can do it from a mastering perspective where you're just changing the mastering EQ or maybe adjusting certain things about the stereo width or things like that. If you don't want to adjust the individual instruments, which can become a more laborious process. But I actually recommend adjusting the individual instruments above the master. But sometimes you can achieve that same feeling by adjusting the master. But anyway, yeah, I would recommend doing that. Just removing certain frequencies or removing aspects of these two sections will allow this section to feel more loud. Even if you're not really removing anything from the perspective of like an instrument. I'm not saying you got to get rid of an instrument or anything like that. I just mean like slight volume adjustments, things like that, just to kind of psychoacoustically create the feeling of like, oh, it's louder at this final section, and it's because the song has been quieter a little bit until this final section. And that's kind of a common thing that a lot of people do when it comes to the crescendoing aspect of music, where you want it to keep getting more and more exciting as the song progresses. Like there's a reason why the second drop always needs to hit harder than the first drop. Like that kind of stuff is really important. And I feel like if you're conscious of that, there's a lot of ways to kind of get around making your earlier stuff sound as good as your biggest drop. In fact, I would go so far as to recommend to people who are mixing and mastering to focus on the most energetic and full part of your song first when you're mixing and mastering, and then kind of work backwards from there, because that's going to be the most exciting and full and important part of your entire song. So, if you can get that right, then all you need to do is remove things around that moment and everything else will feel great, right? So like if it's your final drop, for example, when you get that mixed and mastered perfectly and you got it sounding great, then when you go back to your first drop, you need to make that feel less impactful than the second drop, so you can do what I'm describing, removing frequencies, lowering volumes, things like that, subtly, right? It's like not enough to really be obvious, but enough to be felt when that final drop actually hits. But anyway, yeah, that is what I would recommend to you. As far as, I think that's basically the best way to answer that. Let me see if there's anything else I missed. Yeah, that's basically what I would do. I plan on making some things a little bit wider, but does anything stand out of the mix that needs fixing? Not really. I feel like there's this abrasiveness of the bass in the very last section, because it is so legato and it runs for so long and it's so loud in the mix. It feels like it's overpowering everything else just because it's so like constant. So if you're going to have it be that constant, I would recommend lowering the balance of the bass in the context of the mix during that section, so that way we can hear some of the other elements like the flute, things like that, and I think that'll help like those sorts of things stand out more anyways. So yeah, I like the minimal hypno, or not the flute, but you know what I mean, like the other instruments, whatever that is, that weird stringy whatever that thing is, and then that, right? So those kind of moments I feel like can be accentuated by the again, removal of other things. But yeah, I like the minimal hypnosis for this one because it's meant to be depressing. But are the elements I should layer? I guess you meant to say, are there elements I should layer in, or ways I can make the transition smoother? Yeah, there's always ways to make the transition smoother. I feel like that's like it eventually becomes a game of diminishing returns, but there's a lot of different ways where you can create this feeling of tension building and release. And I feel like the more of that you can create, the better. But in the context of a song like this, you actually did a really good job. I feel like there's nothing that like was standing out to me in a bad way, which is great. I just feel like there's some things where you could accentuate like a more deep, connection with the listener. Because like, for example, this first section here where the bass comes in, it's a little bit abrasive, right? I think that maybe leading up to this moment, kind of letting us know that that this song is about to begin and the bass is about to come in could be nice, right? So having some reverse elements or a sweep or something, right? Anything, any kind of manipulation of the frequencies, all that kind of stuff to, I think, help the listener just understand that something is about to happen, because it does come in like out of nowhere a little bit. So yeah, basically you want to connect with the listener and go, okay, hey, I'm going to like lead you along and like let you know, like, okay, we're about to reach this moment where things are going to happen. And because you're doing that, it makes that moment feel better and feel more expected and exciting, because it's less like, whoa, where did this come from? So yeah, that's, I think that's all I think I have to say on that. Really cool track though, dude.
Yeah, I agree. You don't really need tension and release in the song because it's meditative as hell. But the having like a gentle sweep or like white noise to kind of indicate like, ooh, something's coming, or anything that you can kind of indicate, oh, it's like something's about to drop. Something they didn't touch on because I think they're on headphones. The sub is so fucking in your face. It kind of dominates everything, but not the sub itself. It's more the harmonics, and like you have sub going. It's like almost full band, which is cool, but the presence of the sub being in your face and like the higher harmonics, like right, just going like, it kind of distracts you from that meditative vibe of all the cool decoration you have going around on the sides. So what I would recommend, it's not a bad thing. What are the notes I wrote? Yeah, the bass is just way too present. You want it kind of like warbling powerfully in the background as like the ground. What I would do is automate the opening and closing of the higher harmonics so it like warbles very slowly, but take the highs or the mids and the highs that are present in that sub that you have or that bass patch and like put them in reverb or some type of like dispersion so it's like the higher harmonics are like and they kind of like spread out, but they're not like the main focus, because right now they're like front and center and right in your face, which is, it's hard to hear on headphones. That's why I recommend getting studio monitors that are really well aligned for the stereo imaging field, because you'll notice like this is going to dominate everything. And if you played it at like a big system, it would just be mostly like those higher harmonics of the bass, and all the other decorations would kind of get lost in the mix. So I would automate that to open and close tastefully, however you see fit, and then like send those highs and those mids to like a reverb. Don't let any sub into the reverb, obviously, so it can like space out and be like this like mysterious sub that's super powerful, but it isn't like the main focus. What's the other thing? How to make the first and second part thicker? Oh, that exactly. Like keep the first section without the bass opening. No higher harmonics, just the kind of the sub, maybe the second harmonic, and then as it evolves through the track, keep opening that more and more. So it's like, and it almost turns into like a Tibetan throat singer that's just like slowly gets more intense and is like, and then it's like reaching its finale where it's like, all right, you've hit the pinnacle, you're in nirvana or whatever. That would be cool. That'd be a cool evolution. Another thing you could do, yeah, like add in the like Dino said, the wood sounds or like a wood block, something like more percussion to kind of drive it a little bit like more rhythmically. Slowly add in more percussion. That's the other thing with the percussion I noticed is the transients were good and they're at a good level. I feel like you could push them a little higher. Elements I should layer in ways to make the transition smoother. Yeah, we went over that. I think you could make let me see. Yeah, the surrounding like instrumentation, I love it. It's well placed and everything. I think it could just be a little bit more present and louder. And washed over with a good tasteful like ethereal reverb almost, and then sidechain to itself, so like the transient hits are kind of more obvious, but they like disperse into this beautiful like background noise space. So it's like you're in this field that's just huge, but there's still like stuff going on around in the periphery. Obviously, I'm gonna say his name. Tipper is a good reference for that and that type of ambience, but that's also like really fucking hard to get to. But yeah,
Guys, F's in the chat for Colin bringing up Tipper.
I said Tipper. Put that on the bingo card, referencing Tipper. But yeah,
Colin talking
great
about
song. I love
Tipper
it.
does need to go on the bingo card. That does.
Yeah. But yeah, good shit. Definitely let us know when you drop it. Sidechain to itself, yeah, like if you have a return or a bus of just the reverbs, you can actually do it in Ableton on the channel itself. You just put a compressor after the reverb and you sidechain that compression to the original source material, and then under that chain you have the dry signal. So then you can dial in exactly how much reverb you want, and it's going to get ducked by its original signal. If Brad, you have Ableton open, maybe you could demonstrate it. It's up to you. Or there's plenty of videos on YouTube. You could just look up sidechain reverb.
Basically, you're compressing the sound of the reverb whenever the dry signal is playing. Does that make sense? So you're essentially getting rid of the reverb when the dry signal is playing, so that way it can like express itself and not be muddied up by the reverb. But when it's not doing its thing, then the reverb is like really easy to hear, you know, and what that does is it creates that feeling that Colin was talking about, where like you can still hear all of the main elements, but then they kind of get lost into this spacious, cool atmosphere whenever they're not happening.
A quick and dirty way to get this effect is to bounce the wet reverb and then just take out the audio when the dry signal is there. It's a quick and easy way to do it.
Here, I'll just do it.
And Lunar, you said I like that bass note. You do, but there's a way to articulate it so its power is still felt, but not like the entire time, so it dominates everything else. And the listener, when they hear songs, like you got to make them crave that cool shit. You got like that bass is dope. I like it, but if it's all the time, it stops being special, and it's kind of like it gets almost annoying. But if you make it come in and out, it's like, whoa, that big ass thing is coming.
Right. So then I just have to get the dry audio pre-FX, right? So because this is
okay.
Yeah. So basically I have Ableton open here. This is how you would set this up. So now like when you play the instrument, if I have this lowered, of course, the threshold, right? You can see how when I'm playing the instrument, the reverb goes away, but then when I'm not playing the instrument, you know, it kind of like fades back in. This is obviously a very aggressive, you know, like, but I wanted to make sure you could hear like it happening. So if you do this like tastefully, you know, especially in the context of a mix, I'm sure you can get it to sound quite nice. And that's the point, is like, this is how you can create really washed out, reverberant experiences for people, but it stay clean, which is an important thing to maintain. Because you can really like lose a lot of clarity very quickly if you start using reverbs like this without, you know, being conscious of this. But anyway, yeah, good call, Colin. That was a good thing to make sure people know. But yeah.
Seth Drake. That's from Seth Drake. Learn that tip from the man himself.
Yeah. Well, hell yeah. I think
We
that's
ready
it
to
for
move
Lunar
on?
Guava. Yeah, thanks, dude. That was a cool track. Yeah, that was super trippy.
Sick. I want to hear this. I want to hear this finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know.
You have a home in my heart with this kind of music.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, you definitely nailed the vibe. It's just refinement of it, you know. That's all it is at this point. So you're
all right. I might have to recuse myself from this next track because I may or may not have been involved in the creation of it. Well, I have to see if it's what I think it is. Based off the title, it's probably what I think it is.
Oh. Well, all right. Well, then
I might have been there when he was working on it.
Well, I guess this is one of those sheesher moments, you know.
Sheesh.
Sheesh.
You gotta say it right. Sheesh.
Sheesh, bro.
Are you ready for the musical stylings of Choreo Spirit? Live in the mix. Get ready to listen to some real drum and bass. If you thought you've heard it all before, well, get ready for something new, you piece of shit.
Alright, no! Run that gunshot clap, bad man, a big friend. Alright, no!
right, he's made a lot of progress on it since I heard it last. I believe it's either Mag do it first or Colin first, because I went first last.
Is it me or did Colin not go first? No, I think it is me. I think it is me because didn't Colin go first?
I have no fucking problems with this track. Minimal drums.
Yeah, just go, Colin. Just flex. You got this.
What drums? Yeah, no, that's fine. You kept the rhythm. It was evolving.
Bro said he
good.
had no problems with this track. That's crazy.
I'm trying to find him, dude. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't make too much rhythm. I could say you could add more like noise layers or stuff in the background, like especially when the D&B part comes. You could add more like just ear candy or something. But no, the pacing was good. The sound was good. The mix was good. Hold on. Okay. No, all the main sounds, and that's what I'm saying. You get good drums, you get good sub, and a good mid bass. This track's like mostly done. The decoration right now. More like maybe. This is nitpicking because it's rhythm, so I don't really know. Like hi-hats could maybe be more present. I could sense more like things above 10K. You could get more of that in, but the track is mostly dialed in. You just need to kind of decorate it now and put more ear candy and like transitional elements that kind of drag the listener from section to section.
It's a minute and 10 seconds. I don't think we have section to section yet.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like the arrangement isn't there to really critique, but if you just do what you just did and then kind of repeat it with some variation, it's a solid track. Provided rhythm sounds over drum and bass. Does this style work for the genre? Yeah. Just add more. Hold on. Now you have pullouts, you have stops and stuff that changes up the monotony. So no, it's good, man. Just finish it, make it longer. Put more high end maybe and some more ear candy and it's solid. I'm done.
Word. Yeah, I guess I'll go next. I thought this was fucking crazy. Yeah, as far as the drums were concerned, the drums were fine. I think that the minimal whatever you're talking about is the drums were great. I didn't notice any issues at any point with any of the drums. So yeah. The mix sound level does the mix sound level or properly gain staged? Yes, it sounds great. I think it sounded quite nice. I think you did a good job. Especially with the volume balance. I feel like everything is like just super like where it wants to be, which is great. You know, there's not like a kick sticking out anywhere. I thought like everything was nice and balanced, which is awesome. I did was tasking me to provide rhythm sounds over drum and bass as a style work for the genre. Yeah, I think it works great, honestly. I feel like this almost is like borderline Noisia, but it's like harder than Noisia, you know? It's like a little bit more aggressive. I feel like you could definitely utilize Noisia as some reference material for this shit as far as mix master. Because I don't know. Okay, so like my only quarrel with this is that I get bored of two things. I get bored of the announcer voice, and I get bored of the horns in the way that they're like kind of, I guess, like stagnant, I guess. What? Who, me? Am I trying to trigger you?
No, Poyo is.
Oh, noisy.
Although if you guys want to mark off Dino having a stroke, something that Magdu just said did cause me to have a stroke.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what I said, but word.
I'll address it when it's my turn.
Okay, word. Yeah, but I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I think that it's cool, but I feel like. Do you want it to be silly?
That's kind of the vibe, and it kind of works because it's like enough hard and enough silly, but it balances out. I don't know.
I mean, like, so here's the thing, right?
But I love goofy shit, so that's me.
Like, I guess this is why so it's so close to Noisia in my mind that I want it to be like Noisia, right? Which doesn't really go silly. I wouldn't say Noisia really goes like silly. They go like dark or like hard. You know what I'm saying? Like I'd say less silly, more like grimy. Um, which I don't know. I'm kind of feeling like that would be more fun. But that is an opinion, and that's not really weighted in objectivity. That's subjectivity. So keep that in mind. But no, it's a pretty cool song, dude. I liked it a lot. I think that it's a really cool idea, and I like hearing your skillful rhythm sound design at a drum and bass tempo. So no, that's cool. That's dope. Well, I guess Dinah's about to like address something. I guess I don't know what, but we're gonna find out.
Noisia is not an artist I would use to reference this genre, this style. You're looking more at like Black Sun Empire, Teddy Killers, Vengeant. Like there is why I agree with Magdu that noise is like in a deeper, darker, more mysterious area. There are artists that is like closer to what we're going on with here. Still, you can definitely reference Noisia though. That's not a bad reference. They're always fantastic. Let's address the questions though. Do we like the minimal drums for the first drop? Absolutely, we like minimal drums. However, if you're gonna have such minimal drums, you need a little bit more minimal in the mid bass region. I feel like you either need to bring up the energy of the drums or bring down the energy of the other instruments. I feel like there's a mismatch there. It's kind of disconnected. It doesn't feel quite right. Like, and if I can see where you're going with noise as far as like the minimal drums, but then you need to like bring down the sound design. You either need to bring up the drums or bring down the sound design and meet them in the middle. In my opinion, right? How is the mix sound level properly? Does the mix sound level or properly gain stage? Sure, I guess. I mean, I wasn't really listening for that. Normally I'm listening if like the bass tones match the movement of the mid bass, which they did for the most part here. I think like the frequencies all hit at the right times. They all did the right thing. I did what was asked for me and provided rhythm sounds over drum and bass. Does the style work for the genre? What genre would you call this? Dance floor? Jump up? You know, like peak time drum? Well, peak time drum and bass is something very specific. That's just like regular drum and bass. I don't know. It has a very specific sound to it. So I wouldn't necessarily call this peak time. You want to call it jump up with rhythm sounds? Well, I would make the argument that jump up has rhythm sounds as is. Like those are very like kind of adjacent, similar things in the first place as far as the sound, like the foghorns, the frog bass, the squeaky, like really mid-heavy stuff. Like those are already in the same ballpark. As far as the announcer goes, it hurts me to say this, but I have to agree with Magdut. Like the old Rastafarian voice clip, 100% on point with the genre, right? But the announcer, like, do you want to lean more into the Q dance area and have it be like a hardcore adjacent drum and bass, or do you want it to be Groningen? Am I saying that right? I don't know if Trendy Worm's still here. Groningen style, like Dutch drum and bass, like Noisia and Face and fucking Mephius and Posei kind of stuff. Like you have to. You can be silly, but you need to like lean into it. And if you're gonna do the silly, then you can definitely do like 4/4 roller style, which might be the next step. Like 184 on the floor type stuff could be cool. Yeah, these guys are both laughing their asses off right now. Meme music is the future. Whatever gets you those 15 seconds for the brain rot for you page, right?
Yeah, it's just gonna be like a bunch of TikTok clips that have been mashed up together.
So if you're looking for like a tasteful way to have
sounds
the
kind of fun. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that could be pretty fun. If you're looking for a tasteful way to have the announcer, look into old Q dance like Tomorrowland, whatever the other Q dance stuff was. I think it was just called Q dance. But like old Headhunter, Showtech, like all the old hard style and hardcore guys, right? Like from like 2008 to 2010, around that time frame. when they have like the really cringe like announcer guy. And that, yeah, like that could go pretty hard, but you have to like lean into it and follow those conventions. But yeah, this was a sick track, dude. I don't know how I felt about the last portion, the drums on the last portion, and like the rhythm of the last portion, but I feel like that was just there as like a placeholder, and like the real meat and potatoes was that first drop. In which case, like either bring up the energy of the drums, like Colin said, like introduce some hi-hats and some other like interesting percussion, like some stuff that you can really anchor your ear on, or bring down the energy of the other stuff, just to kind of have it like match. Yeah, I think I'm Skrillex and I'm also not. But yeah, sick track, dude. Are we ready to move on to the next one? Also, Magda, did you get the last track, the one after yours?
Oh, maybe I didn't. Oh, I did not, but I did now. Thank you. I did not see it below the bingo.
Yeah, old cock.
Yeah. All right. Next up. Oh, Chuli's back. Let's go, dude. Saint Chuli's back. This is exciting. This is very exciting. All right. Well, then let's get into the untiming vibe.
It's a search for most of our time here. Must have wondered what it was. Erase myself, I'll erase myself. If I re-emerge, I'll erase myself. If I purge my will, I'll just trace myself. I'll find some way, I'll find some way to feel divine waves, the force of space and timing. It was right here, I was right, I couldn't quite catch it. I'll get it right this time. No matter, I'll just never try again. Yeah, never to be pushed out of phase. 137th away. It's a search for most of our time here. Must have wondered what it would feel like to crush against the ground. I have found it all comes down. It's a shame for most of our time here. Just here waiting for a moment to crush it all down. We all hope it's not ourselves. When we see the scale of it all here, it'll feel so strange to see that it can all wash away. I have found it all comes down. It can take a full lifetime just to see it all leads to the same end. I can't hope we had our friends. I'll wait for it all to sum away, then I'll feel divine waves, the force of space and timing. It was right here, I was right, I don't know, couldn't quite catch it. I'll get it right this time.
Wow. I guess am I first this time, I think? Is that
I believe so.
all right? So, questions. Let's see. Lots of small changes. It should be a lot cleaner now. Is the low mid still what what kind of language is this? It's like alien speech.
I think it's supposed to mean like jumbled, garble, gobbledygoo. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good.
Yeah, that's
It's
fine.
still unintelligible.
Yeah, it's still not understandable. Yeah, fair enough. So I don't think so. It is a little bit. It's not horrible, but there's still a little bit of mud. The sub is nice, which is good. Sub is nice and clean. Kick is pretty clean too. It's the snare, I think. The snare feels quite
that's
muddy.
still a yucky snare. It was a yucky snare last week. It's a yucky snare still this week.
I think that it just needs a cut and it should be fine. I think it's less about the sound itself and more about the frequencies in it, but you could go for a different sound as well. But it's mainly the snare. You can see that it kind of like hits the fundamental.
I was right,
At 150, I mean, that is like prime mud zone right there. So your fundamental is essentially hitting like in the mud area. So I would like try and either find a snare that is a higher frequency or just make the fundamental a little bit less, there. So you could always EQ that out, for example. You could lower the fundamental of the snare. And I think that could help a lot. But yeah, no, but as far as like the kick and sub, I really like the kick and sub. Kick's a little quiet. Kick is a little bit quiet in comparison to sub. Maybe could use a little bit more sidechain too. It's not bad, but I think it's also just because the kick and the sub are just a little bit off balanced. Okay, you boosted the fundamental. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I would just lower the fundamental a bit. Something I like to do is just balance it with only a couple of things. So like just focus on the kick, snare, and sub, for example. And if you can get the kick and the snare and the sub to feel good together, then it should, once you start adding things back in, play a little bit more nicely. Again, this is just to set like a starting point, right? You may have to adjust it once you start bringing more things in, but it'll help you get a better foundation because I think it'll be less distracting. And you'll really be able to pay attention to the fundamental and the way it's interacting with the other low mid information instruments in your song, which is I think where we're getting a lot of issues here. But anyway, that's my opinion as far as the mud is concerned. I pushed the volume a bit. I'm wondering if the vocals are starting to distort too much, if they're still clean enough. Yeah, they feel a little bit like it feels like there's this weird like bit crush signal really high up in the frequency spectrum. I don't know where. It's like in like the 17K or something. And it's quite harsh. I would either low pass it or just reduce whatever kind of saturation or distortion you're doing on the vocals. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else can hear that, but it's like
I want to crush it all down.
it's during this section.
I'll find some way to.
I don't know what it is. It's the high frequency section of the vocals though that just feels like there's a harshness there. Which could be because of what you're describing. So basically balance the vocals, right? So if you turned everything up, maybe the vocals didn't need to go up as much. So maybe you could turn them down a little bit now that you've found that they're feeling a little bit too loud. Or, of course, if you have any sort of saturation, maybe check that. Just make sure it's not adding too much saturation. But I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more of a volume thing. But anyway, yeah, that's my opinion there. And I thought it was pretty good then. I listened to my car and the reverb sounded so incredibly bad. I changed that. Hopefully you can't tell I'm talking about anymore. Yeah, I didn't notice any like bad reverb. I feel like
Find some way never to be pushed out of phase.
In fact, I think I can see the frequency. Hang on a second.
To be pushed out of phase.
18,500 is like looking like where it is. But yeah, there's like this one peak resonant during some of these vocal moments, and I don't know if it's on the vocal or what. But it's like literally you can see it on the mini meters even. It's like this one peak resonant that like sticks up in the high frequencies. But anyway, yeah. The reverb though, I didn't really notice any major issues. I actually think you did a pretty good job at creating a nice sense of space. You could do a little bit more connecting elements. Maybe use like more of like a one reverb for more things, right? Like so kind of combine reverbs more, maybe kind of create more of like a gluing effect with some of the spatial elements that you're using. But that's not necessary. I'm just thinking that could maybe help kind of create more of a cohesive, almost orchestral vibe, which is kind of the vibe I'm starting to get, I think, from your music. It reminds me of like old orchestral, like big band type music, like Family Guy music, right? If you guys ever seen Family Guy, like that kind of stuff. Like when you have all this like complex orchestral stuff happening all at the same time, it has to be mixed in such a way where it all kind of feels like one cohesive unit working together. And I feel like your style of music, although it is not quote unquote orchestral music, wants that sort of mixing and mastering. I feel like it would benefit from that style of mixing. So I would at least recommend looking into that and just maybe referencing some of those styles of music just to observe like how are they getting all of these things to sound like they belong together in one space. But yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, you're really into classical music then. So that makes a lot of sense then. So yeah, then that I think you should reference that then. I think you should just like see how they're using, 50 instruments and making them all feel like they belong together and work together. And a lot of that can be something as simple as, okay, where is it located in the stereo image, right? Like where is it feeling in the terms of like space, right? Is it more forward in the mix? Is it further back in the mix, right? Is there more or less reverb on it? All that kind of stuff can be derived from reference tracks, which is great. So yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of this vibe. I feel like you should, it's like a really complex thing, which means it's going to be quite difficult to master. But I feel like it's actually quite an interesting thing. It reminds me a lot of like score type music, or very like musical, like cinematic type music, which is pretty dope. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Whoever is next, take it away, lad.
Hello, person. How are you doing today, person? All right. Let's see here. Let's address these questions. First things first. Lots of small changes. Is it still in the low end? Still whatever that word is. I don't think the guys addressed that. I pushed the volume a bit. If the vocals are starting to distort too much, or if they're still clean enough, I wasn't really paying attention to that. But I did find that the vocals did disappear, kind of fall by the wayside when everything was going at the same time. So that might be something to address. You know what? Fuck the questions. Why are we still trying to go with this really hard to follow timing? Why are we still following this? Like, why are we still going with this unfollowable drum rhythm?
Well, I feel like
It
it's
doesn't-
so I've thought about this, Dino. I feel like this isn't dance music. I think
It's
that's
not dance music.
I think that's why. Like I
But
know what you
there
want.
There are times. No, it's not that.
Okay.
I don't want it to feel like it hard chops. I can do odd time signatures. I can follow odd rhythms. That's fine. There are times when, at least through the stream, it felt like it chopped. I don't know if that's
That could be
a result
Discord.
of Discord or what the deal is. But yeah, that was it was jarring at times, and I feel like it doesn't necessarily have to be. And if we find ways to like indicate that a timing fuckery might happen, then that could,
I think
and
I
that's
think it might be because the kick isn't super defined, so it can kind of get lost in the mix when everything's happening. and then the beat
Yeah.
can kind of get lost. So it's not as defined as it could be. But
Give me like right at 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Feel divine waves, the force of space and timing. It was
What was
right
that?
here.
What was that in the last 5 seconds? That like double kind of tom or kick thing into the snare, like it doesn't feel organic, and it could feel organic. Even like the time signature reset is fine, right? The timing change right there is fine, or the reset on the
like the
bar,
snare comes in early, yeah.
it just doesn't feel right. And so something we can do to combat that is like fills. We could use fills in that way, right? We could
Or like
we could
ghost notes where it's like you
yeah
fake hit the snare and then you hit it for real on the next beat or something.
yeah. Right.
Because
It
if
just
you're having,
feels
yeah. No, I agree with you.
sorry.
I know I didn't hear
Yeah,
it before, but I see it.
it feels jarring at times.
Yeah, you
Like
need more groove.
it pulls me out, right? And so if you're gonna do something like that, something that I hate to reference the GOAT, I hate to bring up the GOAT, our Lord and Savior, not Tipper, Danny Carey,
Damn, that was like so unexpected.
or Neil Peart.
Who
What,
are
you-
those
you think-
people? Do I need to know those people?
You think I wouldn't? You
Do
think I
I
This is
would
a
already-
reference
boomer. This is
the
boomer
drummer
music.
from Tool or the drummer from Rush? AKA
that's
the
why I have
gods
no
of-
idea who those people
Uses
are.
tons of ghost notes, right? To kind of like, ooh, I'm changing it, but not
Exactly.
really.
Right?
Ghost notes.
Or the legs will continue in one time signature. So the kick and the close hat will continue in the time signature, but then the toms and the snares will migrate into a new time signature, or vice versa. Right? But I know you can do it, Shuli, because you're a drummer. You're a drummer by trade. I know it's possible, you know. So yeah, I think that's the bigger thing to address than like how we're looking at the mix down. It's like the flow and the rhythm and like the actual like rhythmic pattern that's going on. And like it's cool, but then when we get those like just that one little moment takes me out of that groove, right? And now I'm upset. And now I have to find the groove again, but because the groove is always evolving and changing, it's kind of hard to do. Yeah.
That's
Right.
fair. No, that's fair. You're making.
He's even met Danny. Oh. So you already know who I'm talking about too. Of course, you know who I'm talking about. Any drummer worth their salt knows who Danny Carey is, or Neil Peart, or like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna start listing off fucking go-to drummers, but yeah. Anyway, that's my take on that.
All right.
I'm glad you cleaned up the mix though. It is a lot clearer than last week for sure. Like, good job on that.
Heck yeah.
Yep. Old Thomas Hawk, Meshuggah. Now we're talking like the weird time guys, right? Who's the drummer from Dream
Autistic
Theater?
drummers.
Exactly. People who make weird time signatures a competitive sport.
Yeah, Dream Theater is crazy. That's actually a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty dope. Well, yeah, no, that's dope. That's cool. Did you guys want to say anything else?
Yeah, I mean, we've already touched on it. The snare was super muddy. If you don't mind sailing the high seas, or if you have the bank account for it, I would recommend getting Spiff. It's by the same company who made Soothe. You can decide how long the transients ring for any. I mean, it sounds like you overprocess it, honestly. So maybe just less processing on it and take it back to just a simple transient shaper and compression and make it snappy. But if it's already baked in like that, Spiff can be a good, cool tool to like. You make the bass transients way snappier, and then you can make the higher transients last longer. It's just a transient designer, but it's like spectral. It's a cool thing. You should look into it. It's Spiff. But yeah, and that's something I struggled a lot with when I started producing, is making the low mid super dense. Eventually, you develop an ear for it, and after enough car tests or enough referencing on other systems, you start to realize Like even though your headphones, it sounds good on those, it does not sound good in cars. It does not sound good like fucking other speakers have a hard time producing that low mid range, especially when there's a lot of sub or kicks involved. The bass I heard was good. There's a lot of bass harmonics, but you're not going for live systems, so that's perfectly okay. The kick I feel like could be a little bit more accentuated because it was in the earlier sections. It's pretty, yeah, like up to like 2 minutes, like this whole section. The kick is there and it's present, but as I get into like, I don't know if you muffled it on purpose, but after about 3 minutes, it starts to feel like the kick drum just gets buried and I can't really hear it anymore, and I'm looking for it and I'm like trying to find the beat, and I have to try to focus on the kick so I can find it instead of it being there. I don't know if that was a choice, but if you do want to make the kick like weaker, then I would still have other things kind of duck to. I don't know, because I don't really make this style of music, but it's up to you because you are going for like a full mix, kind of like orchestral vibe. But if you want the rhythm to keep going, you got to make the rhythm at least accentuated enough so the listener can latch onto it. Otherwise, just you might as well not have a rhythm. So if it's going to be there, make it intentional and kind of heard. Or if not, then just maybe remove it. But yeah, the kick I just couldn't hear after the 3 minute mark. It's kind of buried.
Is that hot doggy?
What?
Oh, I'm talking
doggy.
to my dog.
What kind of dog
It's
is
fucking
that?
hot. She's a mutt. She's a lot of German Shepherd, but she's a mutt.
Oh, nice. Dogs are cool. Yeah, low
She's
mids.
not.
I realized lots of low mids going on, but I think it's primarily the snare and the overtones of the bass. Like they're conflicting. I would kind of tame the harmonics of the bass a little bit because they are kind of like very present. And like anything over like 200 hertz doesn't need to be heard that much. It's already heard enough. Like most systems can produce over 120 hertz, like car systems and all like that. Once you get into 200 to 300 to 400 range, which what I'm seeing on this sub, yeah, the sub seems to go up to like 300 hertz, and that's when it starts to sound kind of like muddy or boxy and like like you're underwater or something. If it's too much, so I would just kind of tame that a little bit. Vocals, I like the vocals; they're cool. They could be turned down a little bit, but I think it's just you kept turning them up because they were conflicting with everything else going on around it. You could either spectrally compress the other high elements that are in the same range as your vocals, and just a little bit. You don't have to do it a lot, just so that it blends a little bit better, or it's like sitting on top of it. But I think they were just a little bit too loud. You could use something like unmask or the soothe side chaining if you have those. Just delicately though, slightly. You don't want to overdo that, just so it fits in when the vocals come in, because they're not coming in all the time. They just kind of say a phrase and then they dip back. So that you wouldn't want to like scoop out the other instruments because they're going to be playing when the vocal isn't there, and you don't want to muffle them. But when the vocal does come in, you do want the other instruments to kind of duck a little bit just so those vocals are there. And instead of just turning up the vocals so they're super loud, it's better to just kind of duck everything else just a little bit so the vocals can sit nicely. But other than that, dude, yeah, it's a great composition. I love the style. It's original. Yeah, good stuff.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I feel like this is like a very unique style of music, which is nice.
Yeah,
It's good to see something like unique taken seriously.
Now for something completely different.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Or is
fix
it entirely
my-
different?
Oh yeah, I was trying to fix my my headphones there. What? Oh yeah, now time for something else, I guess. Yeah, this is the track I was working on. I'm curious what you guys think. I forget if I showed this to you before, but obviously I don't think I've worked on it in the past few days. So any and all feedback is always welcome. Obviously I also put some questions here. All right, yeah, you guys know the drill. music. So yeah, that's what I was able to come up with.
Jesus Christ. Holy shit.
All right.
The drums are hella boring, so
Dude,
The
but
drums
they
are
were
fine.
dialed in so fucking well. It
The
doesn't
drums are
matter
fine.
because the mix is good.
yeah, that's
Who's
what I was
roasting
really
first?
focusing on.
Who's roasting
You
first?
make-
Are we just talking about
Can I
the mix or
No,
Yeah,
so
I'm-
the
I'm
question is
fired real
the big
quick.
thing that I'm actually really curious about that I forgot to ask a question on that I just want to make sure you understand, like you know this as well. I'm curious if the reverbiness of the final bass is like acceptable or if it's unacceptable, if that makes sense. I've been trying to not be a perfectionist.
The final bass is kind of unacceptable.
Okay,
but
that's good to know.
I don't know if it's the reverb causing that or what, but it
I don't
like
hear
in the question
reverb.
you ask. Yeah, in the question you ask if it feels like blown out, it does feel
Are you-
blown out, even though like objectively it's not blown out. There's just a lot of like it's
'Cause
either
it's so tight.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
it
either
doesn't sound blown out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's either like a slow oscillation on the noise layer that's coming that's making it sound like farty, and not in a necessarily a good way. I'm not gonna address your questions because you already know the answers to those questions. Why is our song backwards though?
What do you mean by that?
I
Backwards.
feel like it's backwards.
I think it had a good progression. I thought the noise bass at the end was it kept getting grimier. It was more defined
Right.
at the beginning, and
Okay.
the end it got grimier,
But-
and I think that's
Okay,
good.
but hear me out. So you have that kind of more clean middle section, right?
Mhm.
That progressively gets grimy, and then you bring it back into the first section where it's tight and clean and nasty. I feel like
I kind of like where it's at right now. I'm gonna be honest. I like where it's clean at first, and then it's like, okay, get fucked.
see, but it's not. But it's
I
but
feel
it's
like-
not clean at first.
So I feel
If you
like
play
the
that
thing,
first,
I think the thing that seems like I fucked up, which I had a thought, I had an inkling that I fucked this up, but I wasn't sure. The final bass just isn't as defined from a
Yeah,
frequency
I was
perspective
gonna say,
as the first one. So what ends up happening is the high frequencies especially just don't hit in the same way. Like I feel like the first drop, the high frequency basses are like nice and crispy and like they're kind of cutting, you know, whereas on like the second one it's just like it's blurred, you know, it's like smushed, which
no, yeah,
I
definitely.
didn't
I think
think
you
of
should
it.
use those noise-based layers that are all slimy and like blah, blah. You should use those as like A/B responses or something, and then return it to cleanliness or something that's really defined, and then smeared and then defined, and it could be a cool A/B thing. But if it's happening the whole time, then it's like, all right, what's happening?
right. It's one of those things where
and-
it's the second drop after you're fatigued. You know how it is. I was like, this sounds cool, but then when you listen back to it, you're like, ooh, maybe it's not as cool.
But dude,
as
that
I
middle
thought.
section, like, it's so groovy and it gets you ready. Like, okay, I'm ready for another drop. I really like that middle section. How like
right. So what if
you
that
slowly
middle-
kind of like low pass it.
And the motif
What if
that
like
middle
follows
section-
the main kind of like lead pluck thing.
I like that too. Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
thinking like that top arp, that bell thing that you have going, like the high end sine waves that are going in the top end, like they didn't work so much in the first section, but when they came full circle and they started to harmonize with the bass in the middle section, that's when it was really cool. But I just feel like that middle section, instead of a break into a build into another drop, if that just acted as your intro, and then you had the first drop be the second drop as just like a switch up drop, no break, no build back up, just a switch.
I don't know. I think the break is good because he goes so hard. Like the listener needs a moment to catch themselves.
but
Yeah.
You can't go that hard without a break.
And that was an
AB 's
intentional moment. Like I was like thinking that when I made that decision. I
Just
was
do
like,
me,
we
just
need
do
to
me
take
a
break
quick
here.
one.
Yeah.
AB that first, like a little bit further forward.
Over here?
Yeah.
Like here?
Well, back in time.
Oh, this way.
Yeah. AB that with the last one. Last one.
Wait, what did you say? I'm sorry.
Neither of us said anything.
I thought you said something about the last one.
I love that part with the fucking staggered bass. It's like good. That part's fucking dope.
It's so great. I'm sorry, the way you describe it is basically how I envision it, existing. So that's great. That's great. That's yeah. But no, I see what you're saying. I think that you. So like, I'm gonna come back with this song again next week, Dino, and I think that you're gonna be okay with the second drop when it feels more defined, because you're not wrong. This drop feels way cooler than this drop in its current state.
Yes,
but I promise
I feel like the first drop
I can definitely make cooler than this drop. I promise you.
All right.
And that's
all
what
right.
I wanna like do that, and then I want to see if we still have to switch things around, because
Bring back that cadence in the second drop.
It's gonna be really hard for me to want to get rid of this middle section, because I feel Colin in the sense like it's like this fun little.
I really like it. It flows really well out of that first drop and into the next. Like it really flows well. I like that.
And
What I did not like is getting ear fucked right at the start with very little fucking warning. I think you need to duplicate this length of the intro and like be like, okay, we're gonna up level a little bit and get ready for something, because it was like it went from like negative 18 dB to fucking full force.
This is a known struggle zone of not only Magdo but of a lot of our other high level producers. Is what's an intro? Never heard of her.
Yeah, I'm really bad at intros. So yeah, thank you for that. I'm gonna actually write that down, because it's one of those things where I feel like intros are really important, but at the same time, you don't always think of them, because as someone who makes a lot of heavy bass music, I'm always focused on like the drop a lot of the times first. So I'm like, I want to establish the drop first. It's like, okay, I got the drop. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I got to make an intro. So in the context of this song, that's pretty much what happened. And as you can see, my effort, my level of effort on this intro was cracked. So yeah, no, I'm gonna improve that.
Hey, but you got the nugget. Just work backwards.
Yeah, the nugget.
Give them just a little bit more heads up and be like, it's gonna be fucked, like just for a second, so they can, if they're in a car or they have their headphones on, they have a moment to be like, oh shit, this is gonna get loud. Because if you just smack them with that much decibel difference, like they could get pissed and be like, what the fuck,
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
As a sound guy, if that happened on my system and I was trying to level out for the intro to make the intro up to level with everything else. Because an active sound guy is gonna be adjusting everything to make sure it's kind of like at a similar level, right? And then you blow out my system with that fucking drop, like already you are now 33% less volume for the whole rest of your set.
Look at Jade Cicada, Detox Unit. All of their intros are at like 6 LUFS, and it's like it's still loud to let them know like here's the peaks. They're still like full peaks. They just haven't introduced the bass yet. So there's definitely an art form to creating an intro.
Maybe I'll start doing that. Maybe I'll start like, well, I mean, I've done that a lot before anyway. Like I've just, the thing is, in the context of this song, I obviously didn't do a lot for the intro, but I see what you're saying. I agree. And yeah,
no, and I get it. When you're working on a track, the intro is like kind of like I'll save that for later.
Yeah,
but
this was something new for me, because I'm experimenting with certain things, like mainly just getting these basses to sound, I guess, like as broken as possible, but not harsh. It's really hard finding that like sweet spot where
you found a good fucking balance.
Yeah.
Like I'm impressed with the level of tightness and clarity, and also how heavy and disgusting it is.
Yeah, because I'm trying to make it sound like you're fucking scraping nails on a chalkboard, but like it's art, Yeah,
it's like you do it.
Yes, I'm scraping nails on a chalkboard, but I'm doing it in style, guys. Okay, all right. But yeah, anyway,
right.
Yeah, thank you for all of the helpful ideas there. That's dope.
All right. Are we ready to move on to the last and final track of today's Feef?
I think so. I think we're down to the last man standing.
Are we gonna have a sub 2.5 hour Feef, guys?
I think so. And we've got the legend himself closing us out too. This is exciting.
Yeah. Is he still in the chat? I don't think he is. I think he's offline.
Rip. Well,
I'm pretty sure he was expecting us to not do his track. It's all right.
Oh,
I messaged him and told him we were doing it.
Well, tell Duncan that it's happening. We're doing it live. We're doing it now. No, yeah, we'll do it anyway. He can always watch the VOD, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Does he have questions? Wait.
He does have questions. He does have questions.
Okay, sweet.
He's got a whole like. I love these kinds of questions. Very descriptive, which means he wants to know specific things. All right, here we go. Well, the flow there was quite nice. I thought that was good. Who's
Yeah,
kicking us off this time? I forget. Is it Colin's turn, I think? Or is it my turn? No. It can't be my turn again. Is it?
It is your turn
Okay.
because we just did the thing.
I'll go real quick.
Here, Colin,
while it's
yeah, you
fresh.
got it. Yeah, flex.
I feel like the you could tease the sensor line. It's a good because it's a rough draft. You said it's like a whip, so I get it. It's not like dialed in yet. You could teasing those like like the chord stabs. Teasing those a little bit early on could help because it kind of everything just kind of comes in. I really like that drum fill right before the drop. The dragged snares, the little snare roll. I love that. I also feel like the LFO on the bass where it goes whoop 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 whoop. I feel like it could be more intentional where it's placed, or maybe you could give one like an 8-bar loop where everything is consistent, and then the next 8-bar loop, you could do the auto pan or the LFO on the sub and make it like an A-B kind of thing, because it kind of feels like the LFO is randomly placed both on the first drop and the second. It's just kind of like whenever you felt like it, you're like, let's make it whoop 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 whoop. But it's just kind of like it's unexpected, and I don't know if it's in the best spots that it could be. So maybe building some sense of consistency with the bass line first, so the listener can get used to it, and then playing with it and making it like do some cool stuff later on, or after 8 bars would be cool. Like 8 bars is enough to kind of memorize something, even 4 sometimes. The vocals I love. I feel like you mix them really well. They're in a good place. The snare sounds a little bit too bright just compared to everything else, but that's a mixed thing and it's a whip, so you probably will dial that in later. Another gripe I had. Wait, okay, yeah, before I answer your question, just another gripe I had was during the breakdown before the second drop. That vocal just repeats, and it repeats very dry, and it keeps just saying the same thing. I feel like you could either delay it out or make it like get more spacious with the reverb and like build that tension before the second drop. It's a whip, so you'll probably do that later, but yeah, it just keeps repeating very dry, and I feel like you could put more like spatialization in it, make it feel like it's fading into oblivion and going oh blah blah blah, and then snap it back into the drop, and it's present again. Direction. I feel like the song isn't going anywhere yet. No, I like it. It's cool. But yeah, you got to decide the bass line that the listener is going to hold on to, because it's kind of like it's all over. So just decide on a good bass line and then maybe make some variations after it's been repeated to the listener, so it isn't like, wait, what's going on? How's the inspired second drop? I think it sits right. Yeah, it's just the bass line I think needs to be consistent. And the snare needs to be dialed in with the rest of the sounds because the drums kind of peak and they're more obvious and front and center than everything else. And they're not really jiving with everything. But that's mixing and it's a whip, so it's pretty much unbalanced on mix at this point. Yeah, that's what I figured. So you'll probably deal with that later. But if anything stands out or if you've got general best practices, yep, the snare, spacing out the reverb, or spacing out the vocal with reverb so it snaps back with tension. I like some of the vocal vibes in this, but I get stuck on how to use them without sounding repetitive. Yeah, spatialization or delaying them out or even using like a gate where it's like and like some type of exponential gating or something so it's rhythmic. Could be cool too, just at breakdown points. Better integrate. Yeah, that's about it. Just kind of experiment with it, make sure it's hovering over everything, but the listener needs solid drums and a good bass line to hold on to consistently before you make variation with it. Otherwise it's going to be like, I'm kind of lost. If it's my first time listening to it, I'm kind of lost. So just make sure it's consistent before you play with it. But yeah, great track, great vibes. That's all I have to say.
On board? I guess I'll go next. Let's see here. So, yeah, I guess as far as the arrangement goes, I feel like when it comes to song structures, obviously, as you heard from my previous song, it depends on how I'm feeling, like as to how good the song structure is going to be that day. But in the grand scheme of things, you have a pretty good vibe here. But I do think during the second half of the song, kind of similar to what Colin was mentioning, the vocals are really carrying a lot of the development and the progression. And I feel like they do get monotonous because they're dry and it's the same kind of thing being repeated. And yeah, I do think that, yeah, some kind of like time-based effect, like a delay or a reverb, or maybe even some kind of like filtering, or maybe even like bit crushing, or I don't know, like some kind of manipulation of that vocal during those periods of time to kind of break up that monotony would be nice, just so it's not so dry the whole time. But as far as the structural development, I feel like you have a pretty good idea here. It's a little short. I think it could be a little longer. Obviously, could use an outro and things like that. But, I mean, I think you have a nice intro. I'm going to jump to the next question here because I'm kind of itching to talk about this one thing. I actually felt like the vocals, I guess it's actually more about three. Well, it's kind of a combination of these two, but mixing wise, I feel like the vocals were actually not sticking out enough. I feel like it's kind of hard to really pay attention to them fully. There's moments like that where it's fine, but then during like the drop sections when the bass is there, it's a little bit harder to pay attention and hear what they're saying or what he's saying. So I would just say, yeah, a little bit more separation would be nice. Not a lot, but just like a little bit, just to make sure, like, in my opinion, when you start using vocals in this way, like they need to be like so unequivocally pure. Like you need to be able to perfectly understand every little like nuance of the vocal, just because it's like it's a lead vocal, you know? So I feel like it's almost there, but I would actually say you could be a little bit more separate with it in the context of this song. As far as everything else though, I feel like everything's pretty good. Like snare's a little hot, or whatever this is, the clap. Yeah, your balance is really good. I feel like the kick is the big thing that keeps feeling like periodically getting buried. Like comparing this kick hit, right? Like now obviously this one's hitting with the 808, but I don't know, it's kind of like that. Like even that feels way more impactful than when it's full. So I think that when your song fills up more, you really want to make sure that that side chain is really working, you know, or getting rid of more things. Just because, yeah, as you add more elements, as the song gets more full, it feels like the kick is struggling more and more to like get the room that it needs to be there, you know. But yeah, as far as that's probably, I feel like that's it. I feel like everything else was kind of addressed. This sounds like a really nice balanced mix. Like the balance is great. Yeah, I think that as far as vocals go, I think that this is the interesting thing about your usage of vocals, and this is something that I haven't fully understood as someone who doesn't really use a lot of loops. My thought process is if you're going to use a vocal loop, you should treat that as a filler. And this is my opinion, but this is what I think deep down in my head and soul and body or whatever. I feel like you should use it as a filler because at the end of your production process and your song creation, I feel like that art piece should really be as expressive of yourself as it possibly can. And in my opinion, vocals are probably the most egocentric aspect of music as a whole. So when it comes to expressing yourself through voice, I feel like the only way, in my opinion, to really express yourself is to do it yourself. Meaning like you have to either sing it yourself or find someone that like really sings the way you want them to sing, and they need to sing the words that you want them to sing. And like, I feel like that's the only way for it to feel, for me, right? This is for me. That's the only way for me to feel invested in the lyrics, right? And at that point, because you're creating the lyrics, there's really no limitations, right? Like you can, you know, make whatever words you want, right? You can say whatever you want to say. You can use whatever notes you want to, you know, it becomes this kind of extremely complex and, you know, bottomless pit of cool things you can try. And that's why I think that if you are going to do vocals, I would highly recommend really planning for like a long-term investment, right? So if you're using a loop, that's fine. It's great to especially get an idea, like in this context, right? You now have that space filled and you filled it in a great way. So now you have an understanding of how this vocal can fit in your song. But I don't think that this song with that vocal loop would ever be as interesting or cool, as inspiring as something that you come up with yourself. And that's just my own opinion, right? I'm not saying that's a fact or objective truth, but that is my subjective truth for me, because I just feel like if you're going to express yourself with vocals, you are entering the realm of like very ego, right? Like the ego is fully there, right? You're speaking in a language, right? So there is no more, you know, thinking outside the box. You're like putting the song into a box. So there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that you have to be conscious of the fact that, you know, you have done that, which means I feel like you have, the song from an art perspective has earned the right for you to make the lyrics. It's like it deserves it. I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot, like serving the art over the, you know, other nonsense, right? Like you should do what makes the art piece feel best. And in the context of a song like this, yeah, the focal point really is the lyrics. I mean, quite frankly, like you've essentially created a song arrangement, like an instrumental for a lyrical piece, which means that the vocal is kind of the main element. This is kind of like a producer moment, right? Like you're producing for a pop artist, right? Like that's kind of the vibe that you have created here for yourself. So that means that icon, right? That vibe, that element of vocal and what's being said is, in my opinion, the most important part of the entire song. So at that point, you may as well make it yourself. You know, that's kind of the way I thought about it. But anyway, I'm done rambling on that. Really cool song, though. I loved all the sound design. The mixing was great. I think it's fun. Like, it definitely got me moving. So, you know, you have a groove. It's just, yeah, a little bit of refinement. And I would say, like, you know, express yourself. Like, I want to hear you sing, man. Or maybe even mess around with AI to get an idea of what you want it to sound like. Because, I don't know. I've been on this, like, mindset where the only good vocal loop, I think, is either a filler loop or, like, a chopped loop. I think chopped loops are fine. But I don't know. I feel like as soon as you use a splice loop, you're essentially playing, Russian roulette or gambling, right? You're hoping, praying that no one else uses that loop, even though there's probably thousands and thousands of people who have access to that one sample. So it's like, really hope that they don't use it, or at least in the way that you use it, I suppose. But anyway, I'm done. What do you guys? What do you think?
Oh,
Dino?
it's just me at
Yeah,
this
sorry,
point.
Dino. What do you think?
I don't know. I agree with the things that you guys have said so far, especially Colin with like you need like a driving force in the drums and the bass. And then I agree that like the vocals, like you can once you create a track that's at the quality that this one is, like you shouldn't be using other people's vocals. You can definitely like hire out a real vocalist or like an independent vocalist and have like tailor-made vocals. I thought this track was great. Nothing really stood out to me as like not working. And I don't really have any input to add other than what you guys have already said. To address the questions, direction feel like it isn't really going anywhere. Well, sometimes pop music doesn't really go anywhere. Like sometimes it just does what it does and sits stagnant and repeats itself, and that's okay. Like sometimes people want to be able to re-sing the chorus or the hook or whatever. Speaking of, what language was this in? Because it felt like it was in English at first, but then I don't know, it became unintelligible to my ears later on. So I don't honestly like, and the fact that I can't remember what language this was in, kind of a problem for me. The mix was fine. These guys addressed the mix. And then any tips on how to better integrate vocal samples in a track? Yeah, layer them atmospherically in the back and then like call them forward when you want them to be like saying and stuff. But again, I think Maggie is 100% right. Like you've done this much work on this track, like you could and should have bespoke vocals for this kind of thing. But anyway, that being said, gentlemen and maybe ladies, I don't know if any of you guys are out there watching this, but I know the boys are here. What's up? Shout out to the boys. Let's give a big 07 to Colin. 07's in the chat for showing up. We appreciate his feedback. It's always
Maybe
nice
next
to
week,
have.
if I'm open.
Nice.
It's always nice to
hype.
have the mix master himself in the flesh.
I feel like I love contradicting other people's points of view and being like, actually, that was good.
That's the best.
Because it's good to hear all sides.
Well, that's the reason why it's important to have multiple people, I think.
Right.
Give you a perspective or give you their perspective, It sucks.
And then also if all three of us agree that something is completely broken, then it must be completely broken.
It's
It
fucked.
must be fucked, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Or if all three of us agree that something is completely good, like this last track, it must be good. Like there's got to be redeeming qualities and factors to it.
Yeah, this definitely just made me
no.
think it should have like, like a Katy Perry on it or something, Like that's the vibe I had.
Yeah. Well, maybe not Katy Perry. She's kind of,
you know what I mean? All right.
Busy. She's busy doing the astronaut thing right now.
Yeah, dude, that's why I think that's why she's so fresh in my mind. I saw that video and that shit was so silly, dude. Oh, that is the silliest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Anyway.
So anyway, thanks Colin for showing up. Appreciate having you. Thanks Magda for hosting this thing. And thanks
Thank you guys
for
for your
having me.
devotion.
Yeah.
We love it.
Our dedication to the community.
Praise be the sine waves, square waves, and saw waves live together in harmony. So I guess everything's good. We did our job, lads. I guess until next week. Bye bye.